Those of you who have been watching my videos of late, my Mish-Mash videos, you know that I'm working on a 1958 Heathkit oscilloscope, model OL-1. And someone a while back had installed an inline fuse with, off the switch, which would be right in here somewhere. Let me go ahead and install, put that fuse on the schematic, and so you can see what's going on. Well, it's not the best drawing in the world, but it is a fuse right off the power cord prior to the switch. Right there is where they have it. Well, the first time I fired up this oscilloscope, the fuse blew. And I went ahead and I've since, replaced all the caps, you know that. And any bad resistors, and all the tubes are good now. And I turned it on and brought it up on the variac, which I always do. I wasn't going to just flip the switch on. I got it up a few volts and boom, the fuse blew again. Well, I wasn't happy about that. So what's the problem here? I ohmed out all these leads. Everything ohms out good in the power transformer. But again, this is one of those cases where if something ohms out good, but you're still having the problem, in particular with the primary side fuse, then something, I went ahead and disconnected this is a half-wave rectifier, this is a full-wave rectifier tube. I went ahead and pulled them out, and still, it blew a fuse. Well, regardless of how it read, there was something wrong with the power transformer. So I took it out. Yeah, I like ripping and tearing. Looky what I found in the primary side. This is the two black wires right here that go to the plug. Looky what I have found. It is, let me zoom right down in there. Another power transformer problem. This is the second in a row for me. I don't like that at all. So I'm going to have to start peeling some of this old tape off of here. This is a cloth kind of tape. I'm going to peel that off. I'm going to peel it, clean this up with the alcohol and a brush and see what I can find. I have a sneaky suspicion what's burned here is going to be directly connected to the black wires right here, which go to the power plug. Yeah. Alright, the first thing I did was peel back this little piece of tape here first, because right down in there is some more black stuff, and it was pretty close. It was kind of close to it, so I want to get it out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and grab this one, kind of pull it up and out and see what we got there. Ooh, that is not looking good at all down in there. Let me get a little bit closer. Not good at all. Oh, bummer. Well, let's clean it up and see what we get. Now all I'm using to do this is alcohol, 91% alcohol, and a brush. This will be the initial cleaning. Get this thing out of my way. Down in there, it looks to me like it's burnt way down in the center there. I just don't think this is going to be salvageable. So what do we do? Well, I don't know. Maybe I can find another one. I don't like using old transformers out of another item. I always like to replace things with a brand new transformer, but this is just a piece of little old test equipment. I tried to salvage it, and apparently it's not going to work. I don't know, maybe somebody has a transformer out of one. I don't know, I'll have to check around. Let's go ahead and peel back this piece of cardboard and see what we get. Well, that's about as far as she's going to go back. She's up underneath the metal plates here. Let me see. I'll tell you what, let me work on this thing a little bit longer. Let's see what we come up with. Maybe I can come up with an answer or two here. So far, the wires coming up out of the windings are in one piece. Strange, huh? As soon as I get this open, I'll do some ohming out between these wires here and these wires down here. See what's going on. Alright, all you schematic freaks out there that always want to see how something is done, here you go. For those of you who know how to do all this, turn on the TV, watch your favorite show. What we've got here is the primary is made up of a black wire, through the winding, and it comes out another black wire. Both black wires going to the plug and to the switch, okay? So I ought to be able to hook my multimeter here and read through that coil. So let's do that. I've got one wire connected to black from my multimeter and the other one connected from black from my multimeter. Let's see what we get. 23.5 ohms. I'm on the 200 ohm scale, okay, right there. 23.5 ohms. It shows a good, at least it's got continuity. Let's go to the next step. Well, we know that the primary appears to be good, but you know, it's possible that that primary could be shorted across to any one of these coils on any one of these wires, to include up here on the CRT, which is a couple of brown wires. Then we got a yellow and a yellow. We've got a red, a ground, and a red, and then we got a couple of greens. So what I need to do is leave one multimeter lead connected to the black, and then just start connecting the one that I removed from this end. Start connecting it to each one of these and see if I get any continuity at all. Let's start with the brown and then move to the yellow. The black wire is still connected to one side of the meter. Now let's go to the brown. These are our two brown wires here. Let's connect it there and see what we get. Nothing. No continuity there. Alright, let's take it loose and connect it to the yellow wires, which would be these two right down here. I've got them labeled with this yellow wire tie. Let's hook it onto that yellow set of wires. All you need to do is hook it on one lead, as long as you get continuity between the two. You know you got a complete circuit there. I've already tested them and they're good. So I can test, I can connect the alligator clip to either of the two leads, and if there's a continuity, it's going to show. Nothing again. All right. Well, we've done that. Now what do we have to do? We need to check the green and the red. Green, red, and ground. Alright, let's go to the green. Let me set that up and get this thing moved around where we can get to it. Alright, here's the green. Let's go ahead and hook up our multimeter to one of the leads. Nothing. Alright, so far so good actually. Let's take it off and connect it to the red. Still nothing. The last thing to connect is the ground, which is this baby right here. It's even got a ground connector on it. Makes it easier to find, okay? Let's go ahead and connect it up. Again. Nothing. Actually, this is good news. None of the windings are ohming out between each other, and I show continuity between every single winding by measuring across the two leads of each color. Let me think about this for a minute. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm getting a lot of feedback about how you always learn from my videos. You want me to keep doing more, so you can learn more. Well, I've done a lot of videos, guys. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We've got all of our wires are intact, as you can see. Let me zoom in. We've got continuity on all the coils. No continuity between any of the any of the secondary coils and the primary coil of the transformer. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. All you guys out there that say you've been learning, tell me what you would do. Tell me what I should do. And I'm not going to work any more on this until I get some input from all you guys that want me to do another restoration. Yeah, show me what you got. Alright, let's crank up on this one right here. This is our, our airline chassis, our 1931 6214. And what you're looking at here is a canned ohm resistor. A canned ohm resistor. That was the, kind of a catchy name for that thing, actually. That was it has nothing to do with the electronic side of the house. It's a trade name. It was made by a company. and they called it the can dome. It's got a wire wound resistor, and then they tapped off of it at various points, and then it was very hot. You know, it had a high wattage, so they fastened it through screws on each end to the chassis, which helped dissipate the heat. Now, some of these were shorter. This is the longest one I've ever seen. But they tapped off here and here and here and here. This is wire round. Now, I tore one of these apart previously in a restoration I did. I'm going to try to find it and show you a picture of it torn apart. It's a little shorter than this one, maybe about like that, maybe from here to here. But it seems to me I tore one of those apart and showed everybody what they look like. Some people say, well, leave them in. Wrong. No, this is one you get rid of. Do not. And some people say, yeah, but it's open between here and here. So I can go, it's all the rest of it's good. It's just these 2 points right here that, you know, need to have the resistance. So I can just put a resistor in there and I'm back in business. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And I'll tell you why. I was cautioned by a very experienced radio tech one time. He said, yeah, you go ahead and put your resistor between here and here to make up the difference where it might be open. Everything reads good. And then later on, this thing comes back alive. It just comes back to life, and now you've got double the resistance right here, and it causes all kinds of problems. Get rid of this junk. That's why I bought this right here. See, I needed a nice long terminal strip. So what we're going to do is take away this can dome resistor. We're going to cement this in place, all right? And which will require me to, the best part of radio restoration and repair. I just love to chop. I've got my cutters already. Am I going to sit here and unsolder each one of these? Are you kidding me? No way. Watch this. Watch. Yeah, now that's the way I unsolder, and that's what we're going to do all the way down. Yeah, I love it. Well, there it is, folks. Right there. That's what it looks like on the back. Just a long strip of flat, some kind of non-conducting phenolic board or something like that. Little thin jobby. See if I can zero in on that thing a little bit there. Can you see it down in there? Yep. And then they have a paper insulator around it. Let me see if I can show you the paper insulator. Right there. That's the paper insulator. It's just a little insulator is all it is. Alright. And then they take the wire and they wrap around, and then just like I said, tap off where they need it. Well, that's one can dome resistor that's going to bite the dust. I never would keep one of these in my radio. Never. Okay. Now you know why I like to work on junk radios. I can do stuff like this. If this was some kind of a really cool, neat radio and it was giving me problems, you know, would I do that? No, I wouldn't have any fun. We can practically destroy these things to make them better. Isn't that great? I mean, you get the best of both worlds. Come on. Do we worry about cutting a wire? No. Why? Because we have a schematic. Now, I don't want you going on to coils, you know, and going on to different coils and cutting wires off of those puppies. I'm talking about on terminal strips like this, you know, solder things on maybe on the tube, you know, sockets. Stay away from your coils, you know, until you know exactly what you're doing. But I'll tell you what. This is the best way to learn how to do radio restoration. Just get down in there and rip it out. And then you have to say to yourself, oh, God, will I ever get it back together? Best question in the world. Best question in the world, will I ever get it back together? And the answer, of course, is always, I don't know. But that's when you really learn. That's when you learn how to follow schematics. That's when you learn how to solder properly. That's when you learn how to run your wire. They call it wire dressing throughout the chassis. That's when you learn how to clean. That's when you learn how to do everything. Okay, you learn how to extract solder if you want to get it off of there and change wires and all sorts of things. You're not going to learn it unless you get knee deep in this stuff. You got to get elbow and knee deep in these radios if you really want to learn it. And you know, I wouldn't get one quite as complicated as this, although it's not very complicated compared to some of them I've done. Get you a small radio. It's really butchered up, really messed up. Somebody screwed it up over the years. Don't worry about it. Cut everything out. Get a hold of your schematic. Try to put it back together. And if you don't do it right, that's even better. You get to go back in and do it a second time, and a third, and a fourth. And that's when you finally say someday, you know, after you've worked on it for so long, and you're so frustrated, and you're ready to throw it in the local drink, you say, you know, I think I figured out how to follow these schematics now. you don't have to know what every little tiny component does and all the, the characteristics of it and all that jazz. All you have to know is how to follow a schematic and rewire your radio. If you can do that, you have accomplished just 1,000% more than some guys. I used to know a guy, I knew a guy years ago who could spout theory all day long about electronic equipment and how the different components worked and all this. He couldn't fix a thing. You give him a radio and he'd sit there for days on end, could not figure out how to fix it, okay? So don't worry about it if it turns out the first or second time not working quite well. Don't sweat it. All right, so let me see now. Let's get that old piece of junk out of there. Let's take the old, here's the terminal strip. Ooh, let's see if she's going to fit. Now, I had about this much room to play with. I saw that, and width-wise also, before I, bought this thing, cut it down and everything. So you just call a little bit of prior planning had to go into this. So what I'm going to do is cement this thing in here. I want to get it up above the bottom lip of the chassis as much as I can, but not go crazy with it. Just enough where it'll clear the cabinet a little bit. Now I ask you, doesn't that look better already? Look at that. Ooh, wow, it looks so cool. All right, what am I going to do next? Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to rough it up again. I'm going to take the pencil, mark it out on each side. Then I'm going to rough it in between the lines. Then I'm going to rough the back of the plastic on this one here. Then I'm going to put my old JB Quick on there. I'm going to set that puppy down in there, and hopefully I'll get it between the lines without smearing too much. I'm going to set that, just let it glue right on down in. Does that look neat already? Yes, it does. Okay, I've got it marked out. This is the right side, left side. I just drew the bottom line here, and I'll just go ahead and rough it through. Now look, there's something I want to point out here before someone else does, and they'll call me on it, so I better cover it now. You see how this is kind of a yellowish green? And if you look up the side of the wall here, yellowish green, then all of a sudden it turns into a metal plating color, okay? This is probably what they call cadmium plated. And what happens is it turns kind of a yellowish green. See if I can get it over here, you can see it a little bit better. It turns kind of a yellowish green, and I'm going to be taking my little moto tool, roughing this up and everything. It's going to create a little dust. Don't be breathing dust from that cadmium. You're not going to go to bed and wake up dead the next morning. Don't get me wrong, but any kind of prolonged sort of exposure to that sort of thing, you just don't want to do it if you can help it, okay? And I'm not going to be grinding a whole lot. I'm just going to kind of rough it up like I did last time on the plastic, just enough to give me a rough surface. So wash your hands when you're done also. Some of that cadmium dust will get on your fingers, and you don't need to be breathing it in or whatever, okay? It's just one of those precautions you have to take. And just common sense, guys, just common sense. Remember, greenish yellow coating on a chassis that's old and old and old is probably cadmium. Be careful around it, okay? Alright, so far so good. Now I've gone ahead and wiped it down with a rag and everything. I'm going to go ahead and take some of my contact cleaner, just give it another little clean. And on the back of our plastic. Now we'll just let it dry, smear the glue on, and get it back over there where it belongs. However, before we do that, you have to put your thinking cap on here a little bit. You just can't slap things into a radio chassis and then afterwards say, oh man, I shouldn't have done it that way. It's going to happen. You can't help it. But just sticking this thing in there, cementing it in, even requires a little bit of thinking. Now, let me tell you what I'm talking about. This is a high wattage resistor. It has a lot of heat coming off it. Like I told you, that's why it's wrapped in metal and fastened to the chassis. A lot of heat. So that means that whatever is attached to here is also going to have to be higher wattage resistors. And maybe not quite as high as they built it, but it's still going to require higher wattage resistors, which means they're going to be larger. So I'll be attaching them maybe from this one over to this one, maybe from this one over to this one. They're going to be pretty big. Do I want them really up close next to the bottom of the chassis? No, I do not. That's why I have this thing positioned where the widest part is inward, because I want those large resistors to be back here, positioned in place in the rear, further in the chassis. And I don't want them sticking out past the bottom of the chassis and touching the wood on the radio or whatever the case may be. So we're going to fix it like that. By the way, all of you young folks out there who are just starting out in this sort of thing, there's a YouTuber out there, if you've never heard of him, called, his YouTube handle is Mr. Carlson's Lab. Mr. Carlson's Lab. Now, this guy's got a lot of very good videos up, and some of it's pretty complicated, so you don't have to like watch the entire video. You just watch the part of his video on each video up to the point where you're finally getting lost. But that's how you start out, you know. You watch and you learn and the stuff you understand, but when he gets into the highly technical stuff, that's when well, I think I'll drop out and go to another one of his videos. That's how I did it. Some of these guys would get really heavy, and I said, man, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm just going to drop out here, find another one of his videos, and go back to the basics in the beginning and learn that. Eventually, each thing piles up and piles up and piles up, and pretty soon you find yourself, you know, understanding some of that technical stuff he gets into, you know, later on. It takes a while. It's something you can't do in a week or two. Anyway, go visit Mr. Carlson's Lab. And now, I don't want you to do it. Yeah, his technical expertise is very good. But, you know, you have to understand, there's a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of people on the internet who have equal technical expertise. I like his videos because the way, you know, I like listening to what he has to say about various things in the radio chassis, don't get me wrong, but the thing I like the most, and I think it really would help beginners, if you're a beginner, is the way he presents it. He does an excellent job of presenting it, you know. I mean, he talks English, you know. He doesn't try to impress everyone with what he knows. He does a good job. He explains it nice and thorough in a very simplified manner. I like that because you know why? He's speaking to the audience. He knows who his audience is, and he's speaking to them. And you always teach to your audience. Very important. All right, let me go ahead and finish gluing this on, and maybe when the video's all done here, you can go see Mr. Carlson as well. And now we just let her sit until she dries. It is Christmas morning, and as promised, we are going to open up the gifts that were sent by Brian. And Grandma, she's sitting over here. She just opened up all of her stuff. Yeah, you happy this morning, Grandma? Sure. She's sitting in her Spank-to-Fire brand new wheelchair. Check out that wheelchair with the spokes. It's got all kinds of brakes on the handles. Oh, right there. Look at those brakes on the handle. Got all kinds of stuff on it. Nice, thick, heavy cushion. That seat's nice and squishy, ain't it?
It's comfortable.
Yeah, it's a lot comfortable. You bet. So let's go ahead and open them up. I'll tell you what. This is probably going to take a couple of hands. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I can go ahead and open this. Oh, here we go. Ooh, check this out. Ultimate TV Westerns. All right. Man, there's one I haven't seen for quite a while. You know, you probably don't. A lot of you folks, the young guys, probably don't know what that is. That is Wyatt Earp. That is Wyatt Earp, folks. All you young folks. Let's see what else we got on here. Jim Bowie, Kit Carson, The Adventures of Champion, which is a horse. Yeah, I remember all these shows. Annie Oakley. Boy, I grew up with Annie Oakley and Cisco Kid. I'd have some of those on my videos. Frontier Doctor Fury. Ooh, I remember that one. Gabby Hayes. Gabby Hayes. Gabby Hayes was one of those guys, you know, he used to be a sidekick to a Western hero, and then one of his favorite sayings I saw one time was a bunch of guys were holding him, keeping him from going where he wanted to go, and he said, "Turn me loose or I'll tear you apart." I remember that. Well, that's pretty nice. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see what we got here. Man, I'll be using those, by the way. Yes, I will.
They're not.
Let's see. I don't know. I'm going to have to open it up. Let me shut the camera off here.
Yeah,
all right, here it is. It is a John Wayne knife. Boy, that sucker's heavy. Boy, I'll tell you what, I could shave with that thing. I'll shave Grandma with it. You want me to shave you with this knife, Grandma?
No,
you don't need to be shaved. Shave your legs.
No.
Well, that's pretty slick. Look, it's got John Wayne on it. Let me see, get down here where I can get a little focus here. Not much light here this morning. There we go. That's a little better. That's pretty neat. John Wayne, both sides. That's a heavy, thick knife, man. Wow. Well, thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate what you and Cheryl sent. You're good folks. Anyway, folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up right here. And we're expecting our son and his wife and their young boy, little John, over here. Should be here in a couple hours, and we've got to get things ready. So until next time, this is John.